Hi there, welcome to the Luminous Fiber Arts Flosstube channel. I'm Misty Purcell. Thanks for stopping by to visit with me today. I hope that you've been well. Thanks so much for your comments on my last video. I'm going to talk to you about some awesome things I've got going on today. I've got a new design that I'm releasing. I've got some projects I finished that I want to talk to you about, a new start that I had for my birthday. I did some antique shopping. I've got a little backstage behind my business I'm going to take you on, a little tour, I guess, of part of my workspace. And just give you some information that hopefully is helpful to you as you're displaying your stitching and thinking about maybe collecting some vintage sewing things. So let's start off by talking about my new design, which is called Stitcher. And if you are someone who loves to stitch, then this design is for you. This is Stitcher. I know a lot of you, like me, are really passionate about your stitching, and you also love stitching with red. So this design is for us. Many of us enjoy the ephemera that goes along with stitching, like spools and pincushions and thimbles and things like that, buttons. So I wanted to create a really sweet design that was classic, that would incorporate the things that we love, just as a way to celebrate our love of needlework. So just a couple details about my design process. One of the things I wasn't sure I'd be able to actually pull off when I initially started this design would be to do a tomato pincushion in only one color and have it look like a pincushion. I wasn't sure if I could get the leaves to look like leaves, but I think it came out pretty well. And another thing that I was debating was whether this should be more of a rectangular shaped design overall and whether it should have a border. So I tried a bunch of different layouts before I settled on this, and what my conclusion was, I just decided that the oval shape seemed to really pull the design together better, and so that's how I ended up with an oval border. So here's a few details about the design. I think this is good for someone who's a confident beginner or beyond that. And the reason I say that is because it includes, in addition to the regular cross stitches, some long stitches and back stitches here. So if you're up for giving that a try, or you have done that, then this would be a good project for you. And it's a little over 1,300 stitches in the piece, so it's a pretty quick stitch. The stitch area is a little over 3¼ inches by 7½ inches, so it's kind of a skinny and short piece. And I want to make sure to thank Merritt Crawford for her beautiful model stitching. She's the one that stitched this, and she did a fantastic job, so thank you so much, Merritt. Let's talk about the supplies that you'll need to stitch the design. This is 32 count sparrow linen, which is hand dyed by me, and a fat 1/8 of fabric is a large enough piece to stitch the design. Now, if you don't stitch on 32 count linen, I also have higher counts of linen available. I have some Lugana. This is an example with 28 count Lugana, and I have some Aida. Here's an example of 16 count Aida. So you can see how the dye looks a little bit different across the different fabric bases. But you can stitch this on any count fabric that you want. You could just stitch it on vintage country mocha if you liked. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And so I'll have kits while they're in stock on my website that contain the fabric and the gorgeous Gloriana silk floss. Look at that. Colorway is pomegranate. It's such a pretty red, and it's just really luscious. It's so pretty, shiny, smooth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like bling for me. And I'm a big fan of bling. So it's a nice treat to use the silk floss if you haven't done it before, or even if you have, it's a great treat. So I recommend this, but I do include on the pattern a conversion to DMC in case you want to use DMC instead, or you want to use the DMC as a jumping off point for choosing an overdyed cotton. So the kits that I have contain a fat 1/8 of the fabric and 1 skein of the floss. Now, not included in the kit, but something that you will probably want are some tapestry needles. And size 24 works well, in my opinion, on a 32 count. I really like the Peacemakers brand in particular. I like a couple of things about them. I've tried a lot of different needles over time, and I really like the tips of these. So they're in between, they're not too blunt and they're not too sharp. They're just right. So they glide nicely through the fabric, and the eye of the needle does a good job of not fraying the floss as you're stitching, which is important. So I like the Peacemakers. I do have the Peacemakers on my website, and I also have them as size 26 and 28 if you need a finer needle for higher count fabric. It's a good idea, even though I recommend these, it's a good idea to try different tapestry needles and see what works best for you, because not everyone's the same. People have different preferences, and you might find that something else actually is more suited to you. But if you haven't tried these, I recommend them. I really like them. The last thing that you're going to want are some mother of pearl buttons. I like the vintage ones. Gives me an excuse to collect more. And so initially, my plan was to sew them like you usually would, face up on the design. But when I did that, I felt like my eye was drawn away from the project and drawn to the buttons because they were so flashy. It just kind of took away from the design. And then I experimented with turning them over face down. And so my pro tip is to turn your buttons face down when you sew them on. And then that will reduce the shine. It'll give it more of an aged look. And I think it makes the piece a little bit more harmonious. So 3/8 inch buttons are a good size for the 32 count or 28 count. I'm not sure about 36. You might be able to use this. You might need to go smaller. Definitely with 40 count I would go smaller, but it's not hard to find mother of pearl buttons in a variety of sizes. So I don't have the buttons on my site, but they're easy to find. So I'll talk a little bit more about finding vintage supplies shortly. So let's talk a little bit about how you could finish and display Stitcher. It looks great in a frame, obviously, so you could frame it if you wanted to. If you're going to frame it, I would sew the buttons on before framing. If you would like to finish it as a pillow, which would also be a great option, you could either sew the buttons on before finishing up the pillow or after. Either way would work great. So yeah, a pillow would look great. I'd love it if someone did it as a pillow. I really would like to see that finish. I think it would look really nice with some red trim of some kind, maybe some cording or ribbon, pom-pom trim, chenille, whatever you come up with, I think would be nice if you wanted to give it a little bit more pop. I'd probably go with a trim that was slightly darker than your floss. I think that might finish it off a little bit better, but you have to play around with stuff obviously and see what works best for you. So you could display this next to a stitching chair. If you have like a stitching chair that you sit in, this would be super cute next to your chair. Or if you have like a stitching room, you could put it over the doorway or somewhere in your stitching room. I have mine set up in like a little needlework vignette that I wanted to show you. And I've collected like buttons and pin cushions and things here. I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what's on display here. This is on my buffet that I had repainted. So basically, if you want to do something that's kind of like this where you have a needlework vignette, you want some kind of a container to pull things together. I mean, it could be like a dough bowl. In my case, I'm using pretty much drawers to pull this off. So I've got a box with some drawers, and I've got some vintage needlework supplies in them, plus some of my designs. So this is just a sewing themed area or a stitching themed area. I like to collect just pieces that I think are interesting to me and in colors that are interesting to me, and I like to put things on display at different heights. So you can see that my different boxes here or drawers are at different heights. This is actually a drawer that Stitcher is on top of, and it has these little compartments, so it works perfect for displaying little accessories. I look for things like, you know, old scissors. I collect silver and gold colored ones. Buttons. I like to collect loose buttons, buttons on button cards, and needle books, tape measures. There's another needle book that was crocheted that's super cool. This little tomato pin cushion is a tape measure. So I just collect all kinds of little things as I come across them. So you can find, you know, vintage sewing ephemera at antique shops. That's where I tend to look for it. Sometimes you can find things like bagged all together. So like this needle book and these spools and some of the things that were over here all came in a huge bag of supplies. And I just pulled out what I liked to use. Or this button jar, I just got the whole jar at an antique shop. So sometimes you can find just a whole selection of things. And I also look on like Etsy and eBay for supplies if I see something that's interesting, and I try to pull everything together. You can see I've got kind of a variety of designs here. So the way that I try to pull them together is to, in the accessories that I'm using, I'm repeating the colors that are in the designs. So, you know, I've got some reds and some kind of off-white colors that are reflected in the buttons. I have some blue that's on the button card there and there. And then I'm repeating those green buttons, kind of repeat what's going on over here in this chippy drawer piece. So one way that I can try to make it look coherent when I have kind of a variety of objects is just to repeat colors in a small area. So, you know, look at yard sales, look at thrift shops, antique shops, secondhand markets like Etsy or eBay, and just pick things that you think are pretty, that call to you, and slowly you'll have a nice little collection if you want to make a little needlework vignette. So let's talk about my personal stitching. I had a finish. This is Leading the Way by Pat Thode of Heartstrings, and it was in the Just Cross Stitch ornament issue for the year 2000. And originally I think it was stitched on maybe a 28 count fabric. I ended up using 40 count Sparrow, and by doing so I ended up omitting the beads. I think there were some buttons or charms that went with this, and I obviously didn't worry about those either. So this is just DMC and Krynic. I changed some of the DMC and I left out some of the black just to kind of brighten it up and maybe make it a little bit more contemporary for me. What else did I do? Oh, I accidentally made his coat shorter than it was supposed to be by a few rows because I got up to do something else, and when I came back I thought I was done with the coat, and I just stitched that bottom checkerboard part, and he looks super cute. He's just a little more squat than he would have been otherwise. And the original model was finished in a bauble shape, a slightly different bauble shape, and I liked that idea. So I found, I think it might have been a coloring book page or something online, and downloaded it. It was just a, you know, a bauble shape, and I resized it on my printer until it fit the piece, and then cut it out on mat board. And then usually I would add batting, but because I was doing the eyelet, I didn't do batting. It was a little bit trickier to align by not using the batting. Like, it just shifts more when you're gluing the piece onto the mat board. But I'm super happy with how it turned out. I used some baker's twine around the edge and as my hanger, and then I added a tiny little bell. And I just used a red fabric on the back that I thought coordinated with it well. So this was for my 12 ornaments in 22 challenge, my April ornament, and I'm super happy to have completed it. So this is Under My Wing by Blue Ribbon Designs, and I stitched this as a gift for Barbie's pedal pusher for her birthday in April. I decided to use my pillow finish from My Heart Is Yours, like that general idea, and apply it to this. I originally was going to do the round mason jar cap like Belinda had done in the design. I really liked that finish, but I couldn't find my bottle caps anywhere, and I wanted to finish it because I was already getting, I think I was close to Barbie's birthday. I ended up getting it out to her late. She didn't get it on time, but anyway, I was trying to get it done. I just said, well, I'm going to find some other way to finish this. So I decided to do that finish. And this was a really fun, quick little stitch. It's a great pattern. I think I changed some of the DMC colors. I can't quite recall, and I didn't note it down. But I used Shallot as the velveteen from Lady Dot Creates, and then the rayon ribbon is vanilla. And then I had this really pretty swallow charm in my stash that I used, and I used some very pretty mother of pearl buttons. I'm a sucker for mother of pearl buttons in my finishes, as you'll have noticed by now. And so yeah, I really just kind of did a similar finish to My Heart Is Yours, and I think it turned out really well. I'm super happy with how it looks in the end. I think it's super cute. Here's another finish I'm super happy about. It's Halloween. This is by Foxwood Crossings. And I stitched this on 40 count soft pumpkin, which is a fabric I dye. And I used Classic Colorworks Black Coffee. I can't really see it real well, but it has a nice variation between kind of a darker black and then more of a gray. The orange is showing up pretty accurately here, but the black, I think it's harder to see in the video what it does, how it varies. But this just turned out so cool. I'm really pleased with it. It's a really nice kind of catches your eye graphic design. I really liked the motifs in this. I saw, I think it was Cindy C stitching this on Instagram, and I decided that I had to stitch it. So I started this last year, and I just finished it recently, a few days ago. So I'm looking forward to getting it framed and having it on display for Halloween this year. Next up, we have Scattered Seed Samplers Night Watch 1626. And I finished this one during the 24 Hours of Cross Stitch Marathon weekend, which happened a week and a half or so ago. This is stitched on 40 count Sparrow. I changed some of the colors or used DMC equivalents. I know that the orange is Pumpkin Pie by Gentle Art. There's a little bit of a line on my fabric, I guess, where I dyed it. Oh well, I'm not worried. And I'm not gonna stitch, or I'm leaving off the 1626 because it's over 1. I don't really enjoy over 1 stitching on 40 count. So I will be finishing this into a pillow. This is a good project in terms of, you know, once you get the vines done, then you can kind of do some fill-in work. So I used it a lot of the times when I was talking to my friend Kim Goldman on Zoom. So I'll always think of Kim whenever I see this. So hopefully I'll get this done this summer so I can have it on display for this Halloween. It was a fun stitch. I really like the design. I like Halloween. Well, you all know. I'm a sucker for Halloween, and I love the kitties too, and the owls. I forgot, I thought I was done, and then I realized I was missing one owl, so I had to go back in and finish him. But it's all done now. And this was something I started last year. If I had stuck to it, I would have had it done long ago. But I like to bounce around. And here's my not very impressive birthday start. This is Cat Halloween Pendibule by Doreen Jones. I'd say it's not very impressive because I didn't make much progress on it, and then when I finally made some progress, I made some mistakes and had to rip out a couple times. But it is a really cool piece. This is a 32 count soft pumpkin, and I'm using black coffee again because it's a match made in heaven. So I have a lot more to do. I'll have to insert a photo for you because I just have a download copy of the pattern. But I think this is going to be a quick stitch. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the beads. I have to see if I have some beads that will work. But yeah, I'm excited to try making a pendibule following Helen's tutorial. It should be a good experience, and I like trying new finishes, so that should be fun. Okay, so can we talk about antique furniture for a minute? I promise it's still stitching related. So I mentioned in my last video that my mom and I went antique shopping when she was here visiting me. And while we were antique shopping, I saw a couple of things that I just could not get out of my head. A Hoosier cabinet and spool cabinets. So when we were in Lewisburg, I think it was Lewisburg Antiques, there's like an area where they have several Hoosier cabinets, and my mom was admiring this one, and she was showing me how the enamel tabletop slides forward, creating this larger workspace so that you could roll out like your pie crust or your dough, whatever you're working on the countertop. And I've always liked Hoosiers. I've always thought they were really neat, but I didn't think that one would ever be that useful to me. So I just admired them, but figured I would never have one. So then, after she's showing me how this enamel tabletop slides out, I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I am a really big sucker for old furniture that is kind of modular in some way, like it folds up or some part of it slides out. I think it's really cool. I'm fascinated. And I also love old furniture that has enamel tabletops. So kind of all of my boxes were being checked here. And I was thinking to myself, well, how could I use a Hoosier cabinet in my house? Like where and how? And then I was thinking, that expandable workspace on the tabletop would be so nice for shipping, because I have been working on a kitchen cart for the past few years, and it's not the only space that I work. I have like a cutting table where I pack the orders, but I have my computer and a scale on the kitchen cart, along with like pens and pencils and shipping supplies and things like that. And it's a cramped space. So I was thinking, could I replace that with the Hoosier cabinet? I had been thinking of looking for a hutch of some kind for that corner that would be small. And I have, so next to the kitchen cart, there was a bookcase, a rickety old bookcase. It's falling apart. It's like leaning to one side against the wall. And I have all my craft books on it. So I wanted something that I could store the craft books inside, and then, have some storage space on the top as well. So that's what I had been thinking. But I was like, well, maybe I just scrap the whole thing. I get rid of the kitchen cart and the bookcase. I forced myself to get rid of some craft books, which is what I did last summer. I probably got rid of half of my craft books last summer, so that I could, or maybe it was in the fall, anyway, whatever. So I could get that buffet in the corner that I had redone. And, at some point, maybe I can move, and I don't want to move a bunch of books. And a lot of the books, as much as I enjoy them, a lot of stuff I can get on the internet now, they're heavy. So if I'm not using them too, I just needed to clear some things out. So I decided, yes, if I found a Hoosier cabinet, I would put it there. And then I was like so excited about the possibility of having this expanded workspace and this beautiful piece of furniture in my workspace. But I was just on the hunt for a Hoosier cabinet. And then I started looking on like Facebook Marketplace, wasn't having a whole lot of luck. I went to a couple of antique shops around here. I went back to the one in Lewisburg and looked at a couple pieces there. And then I just happened like a week and a half ago to be at an antique shop one day. I just was kind of like, oh, I just want to go to an antique shop that's here in town. It's really close. I didn't think I knew they had a couple of Hoosier cabinets. I didn't think they'd be what I wanted, but as I was looking around, I just came across one that was like beautiful. And so I didn't have to think about it very long. It was just in really good shape. It was a Sellers brand Hoosier cabinet. So yeah, I looked it over carefully and I was really impressed with it. I was able to get a little bit of a discount on it. And so I bought it and brought it home the next day with help from my boyfriend. I roped him into it, and we got it installed in my workroom. And so I'm really enjoying it. It even smells good. It just has this really pleasant wood smell. But I'm really just loving using it. And so I wanted to show you what it looks like set up in my workspace. Isn't she just beautiful? Please excuse all the piles of hand-dyed fabric. I would like to call this a studio, but it's really not a studio. It's a workspace with one pretty piece of furniture in it. Maybe one day it'll be more of a studio. but I try to keep it organized. So here's a cabinet. I've got it on risers so that the counter height is good for typing when I need to work on my laptop to prepare orders. I just want to show you a little bit about the cabinet because I think it's so cool. So one thing that's really neat is how these doors open. You pull up on this and then this little latch goes up and you can open the cabinet. Then there's a clasp here. So I haven't filled this up yet. I'm trying to be good and not overfill things. There's a really cool grocery shopping list here to let you know, or to help you keep track of what you need to buy. Some of it wasn't there anymore when I bought it. That's super cool. Okay, so there's that. There's actually still a flour sifter in here, and I'm not sure whether I'll leave that or take it out at some point. I wouldn't get rid of it, but just if I could use that space maybe for something. It's a tall and skinny space, so it wouldn't be super easy to use, but you can see here is a sifter. There's a handle you can grab, and then a handle here. You could put your flour in at the top. So it's super cool. It's in very good condition, as you can see. And then I've got all my shipping supplies here. Well, some of my shipping supplies, and this little door opens and closes if I want it to. I've got my scale there for weighing your orders. I want to show you, I'll see if I can do it one-handed, that the table pulls out. So the really cool thing about how this table pulls out, when we took this apart to ship it, or to haul it home, I wasn't shipping it, there are these metal, like there's little tracks with metal marbles inside, and the tabletop rolls on those metal marbles. It's so cool. I had taken a picture, but it was blurry, so you can't see it very well how it works, but it's really, really cool. Slide that back in. Then I've got a few drawers and one door. This opens a little bit hard, but you can see I've got some things stored in there for upcoming releases. Fabric I need, and floss packs. And then this drawer needs some attention. It's coming apart a bit. I did put some wax on it to try to get it to be a little less squeaky, but it's still squeaky, so I'll have my mom look at it. But there's a bit of part of it that's coming apart, so I need to put some wood glue on it. And this drawer doesn't have anything in it yet. I haven't decided what goes there. And then this drawer is lined with metal. I think this was the bread drawer. I've got some mailers in there. But yeah, it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. I'm really enjoying it a lot. So I just wanted you to meet the newest member of the Luminous Fiber Art shipping department. And one thing I'm thinking about doing, since I'm not using this side right now, I'm tempted to get a brass lamp that's been electrified, that was an oil lamp, and with like a milk glass shade. I think that would be super pretty there instead of my not so pretty OttLight, or at least the OttLight's fine. It just doesn't maybe go with the style of the cabinet. So I'm considering getting a lamp for the Hoosier cabinet that would just kind of suit it well for the time period. So I hope you enjoyed meeting my new cabinet. So I mentioned that the other thing I had been obsessed with was spool cabinets. And so when I was in Lewisburg with my mom, I found a couple of spool cabinets that I really liked. One was like a spool cabinet with a top that had some display space in it. I hadn't seen anything quite like that before. And then the other was a large spool cabinet on legs, which was also beautiful. So I was thinking about the smaller one because I thought I could use it for a little bit of floss storage and then do some display on top. That was initially what I was thinking of, and I was trying to decide where I could put it. But then as I thought about it some more, I thought, oh, you know, what would really be better is the larger piece, because I could store a lot of floss in it and it would look pretty in my living room and I could move some things around in my living room and it would be really nice. So I kind of talked myself into that. My birthday was coming up, so I had some birthday money. So my boyfriend and I went back to Lewisburg Antiques, and it was stacked on top of another cabinet. So someone who was working there helped us get it down and then wheeled it up front. And it was so funny. Everybody was commenting on that spool cabinet. Like as we were wheeling it up front, we left it up front so I could keep walking around and looking, and I'd be walking by and I'd hear people talking about it. And then even the people working there were commenting on it. So we got it loaded up in my car, and then we went on to the next antique shop, which was Roller Mills, or no, it was the street of shops. So anyway, we were looking around the street of shops, and I ran into some people who said, hey, I really like that spool cabinet you bought, which I thought was hilarious because, I'm not even at the same shop anymore, and they really noticed it, obviously. So I started talking to them, and I found out that it was a mother and son who liked to go antique shopping together. And the mother, I think her name was Karen. She is a cross stitcher, and she collects spool cabinets. I think her son's name was Matt. But they were telling me how if I liked spool cabinets, that there's an antique extravaganza coming up in Adamstown, Pennsylvania. And then they told me that, spool cabinets in particular, I should go to Stouts. I think it's called Stouts Antique Market, Stouts Angus Antique Market. I'll double check that. Anyway, they told me about how this, extravaganza was coming up at the end of April. And I already had plans to go to Lancaster for my birthday that weekend to go antique shopping. And we were going to stay overnight. And so I was like, can we go to Adamstown too? It's not that far. And so my boyfriend was up for it. And we had, he humors me and he goes along and he finds it interesting. And I just had a great time. So let me tell you about that. Okay, so Saturday we went to some of our usual places we go to in Lancaster, like Strasbourg. I really like it there. We had dinner at Fogo de Chão for our birthday. So my boyfriend and I have the same birthday. We're not born the same year, but we have the same birthday. So we wanted to go to a Brazilian steakhouse for dinner. So we did that. That was really fun. So we shopped around, we stayed overnight, and then we went to Adamstown on Sunday. And so we ended up, the Angus Antiques that I was mentioning, that opens at like 7:30 a.m. It's only open on Sundays. And so we went there first because it was early in the morning and nothing else was open. So it was amazing. So if you like really high quality antiques and you are prepared to pay for them, you want to go there. It was like, I don't know, like going into a museum almost, just like so much beautiful stuff, like stained glass, tons of gorgeous furniture, really pretty old lamps. It was, I've never seen anything quite like it. Just like so much really high quality, nice stuff. So I was looking for the lady with the spool cabinets. It did not take me long to find her. Her name's Pat. And wow, that booth, like she and I got talking, and so I didn't get to take a lot of like photos or videos, but she said it was okay to take some pictures. So I got a couple pictures of things that I liked, but that booth was just like full of amazing stuff. And she had like 4 booths actually. Oh, I mean, I just can't even tell you how awesome it was. So, I fell in love with a couple of, there's like a spool cabinet that was similar, but much nicer than the one I had seen at Lewisburg. And I would love to go back for that at some point if I can afford to. And then there was this other spool cabinet that was amazing where like the spools drop down from the top. There's a little door you could open to take them out. And then there's like side doors, and oh, that thing was so cool. Again, that was like not something I could get at that time, but maybe someday. It was really neat. She just had tons of amazing stuff. So I got some pictures I'll show. And she was super nice to talk to. I asked her how she got into collecting, and she said that her husband's really the one that was into collecting the spool cabinets, and that she had started collecting some things like for furniture to display. And she was saying how much more popular spool cabinets have become now. They're quite a popular item. So anyway, it was super cool talking to her. It was beautiful stuff. I really enjoyed seeing it. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, that would be a good place to go. Just, save up for it, like I will be doing. And so where else did we go? Another cool place that isn't stitching related, but if you need kitchen stuff, the Vintage Kitchen and Antiques has like tons of old dishware, glassware, cooking items. Really neat. That was in Adamstown. So Adamstown is apparently like a antique capital of the United States. I didn't know that. I don't know how I didn't know that because I love antiques, but I didn't. So you can just drive along and hit antique shops easily in a very small space. It's another place I want to tell you about. And again, this is more high end, but it was amazing. So Paradise Village Antiques. That place had amazing stuff. There's like 2 different stores on one site, and they clearly carefully curated. You know, it's not like a lot of antique shops where you're walking in and there's mostly junk and you find some treasure if you can. This was mostly treasure. It was like very nice. It felt kind of colonial. Lots of really cool sewing ephemera. So that was a real treat to go there. I just got a few little things here and there at the different places we stopped. But I would definitely go back there and again, save up for something because there was some really neat stuff at that place. And then there were plenty of other shops that were just interesting that I went to, like Cackleberry Farm Antique Mall. That one was really cool. That one wasn't in Adamstown. That was a ways away from there. And anything else? I also liked Heritage Antique Center. So those are some ideas if you happen to be going to Adamstown / Lancaster, some places you could check out. There's a ton of them. I mean, like I said, lots in Adamstown. You can just go down the highway and there's place after place after place. I mean, there's plenty of places we didn't stop because we didn't have time. So I had a great birthday. That was one of the most fun birthdays I've had in a while. Great food. We just had a really good time together. It was fun to look at antiques. It was fun to get out of town for a weekend. It just felt really, really good. So thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate them. And I received a couple birthday gifts that were handmade that I wanted to make sure to show. So thank you for those of you who sent cards and birthday gifts. I really appreciate it. And I just had a couple handmade things that I felt it was important to share because they were handmade. So from my friend Helen D. Isn't this the cutest little pillow ever? With a little crocheted flower. I love this little tape measure for the stem. That's so clever. The pocket with some wonder clips and the scissors. She also sent me these pins that Lois is selling as a fundraiser for Ukraine. So if you're not aware, she was selling these and donating to the World Central Kitchen, I think is the name of the organization. I've also donated to them too because I think it's a really good cause. So they're feeding people who are refugees from Ukraine. So then she made the back. Isn't that so nice? I just love it. Beautiful, Helen. Thank you so much. And then Christina sent me the most perfect bag. And let's show you his face. Oh, isn't that awesome? Christina did an amazing job. She said she only made like, I think 1 or 2 other bags like this. It's really nice and squishy. It's perfect for me because I dearly love Halloween. Look at the fabric inside. Oops, it's hard to, there we go. Kitties on pumpkins. Awesome. So I just learned, I don't know if you can hear the backing up of the truck. I'll see if I can leave this in. So I just learned that my birthday is the halfway point to Halloween. And I tell you, that is no coincidence. That was destiny. Because I love Halloween. So it's very appropriate. It makes me very happy to have recently learned this. It's like destiny or something. Okay, I think that's all I have to say for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to do a little bit of a different format just because I feel like it's good to mix things up, and I wanted you to be able to see some of the projects a little bit better that I had been working on and my design a little bit better. I thought you might like seeing things like how they were displayed. So I hope you enjoyed the format. Let me know what you think of it. I'm curious for your thoughts. Just want to remind you that I have mystery stitch along coming up in July, and the pattern first clue and the supplies, the kits, will be releasing in June. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter. I'll link it below, but you can also just go to luminousfiberarts.com, and it's right at the top of the homepage. It's a little pink bar across the top. So sign up for my newsletter so that you find out when that's available. You don't want to miss out. I only have a limited number of kits available, and that's going to be so fun. It's a Halloween themed. I mentioned it last time. It's called Sneaky Spooky Spells. It's super cute. So I'm really excited about the stitch along. The other thing that's stitching along is Mousecapades. So the next couple of Mousecapades, 3 and 4, are coming out in June. So I'm really excited about that. So if you haven't started the sale, you can join anytime. So that's what I have coming up. I hope that you're well. I hope that you're enjoying your mania if you're stitching for Stitch Mania. If you're not, I hope that you're just having a great May with lots of stitching. And I will be back here again soon. You can follow me in the meantime on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest as Luminous Fiber Arts. And I hope that you have a great day. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Take care.